Luna dragged herself across the cold, unforgiving concrete, her front leg refusing to support her weight. Each step sent a sharp jolt of pain through her fragile body, but she couldn't stop. She wouldn't stop. The hunger gnawed at her insides, and the thirst burned her throat. The once soft fur on her body was matted with dirt and dry blood. Her golden brown eyes scanned the dimly lit gas station, searching, hoping. Someone had to see her. Someone had to care. A car pulled up to the station. The driver barely glanced her way before walking inside to pay for gas. The smell of food wrappers filled the air as another person tossed a bag into the trash. Luna's stomach clenched. She forced herself forward, sniffing desperately, but a sharp pain shot through her injured leg, making her collapse onto the ground. Sophia, the gas station attendant, had been watching her from behind the counter. For the past few days, she had noticed the stray dog lingering around. At first, she thought it belonged to someone surely. No one would abandon an animal in such a state. But the dog's condition had worsened. Her ribs pressed against her thin skin, and her eyes. They held a sadness Sophia couldn't ignore. She stepped outside, the cool night air brushing against her arms. Slowly, she crouched down, extending her hand. "Hey girl, it's okay," she whispered. Luna lifted her head at the sound of the soft voice. Her body trembled, unsure whether to trust the stranger. Every human she had met in the past few days had ignored her, pushed her away, or worse, acted like she didn't exist. But this one, she smelled different. Kind. Cautiously, Luna tried to move closer, but her injured leg gave out again, and she whimpered in pain. Sophia's heart clenched. Something was very wrong. She quickly pulled out her phone and dialed the local animal rescue. "Hey, this is Sophia from the gas station on Maple Street. There's a dog here. She's hurt badly. I think she's been left behind. We'll send someone over right away," the voice on the other end responded. Sophia turned back to Luna, who was now watching her with tired, pleading eyes. She knelt beside her, careful not to startle her. "Help is coming, okay? You're not alone anymore." For the first time in days, Luna let her body relax. The pain was still there, the hunger still gnawed at her, but something in the woman's voice made her believe. Maybe this nightmare was finally over. But neither of them knew the real fight had only just begun. Luna hadn't always been alone. Just a week ago, she had a home, a place where she felt safe, where her human, Mark, used to run his fingers through her fur and call her a good girl. She had trusted him with everything. But trust is fragile. And for Luna, it shattered on the cold pavement of an empty road. The accident happened fast. One moment, she was curled up on the passenger seat of Mark's truck, her tail wagging lazily as the engine hummed. The next, the tires screeched, metal crunched, and Luna was thrown against the door with a force that knocked the air from her lungs. Pain exploded through her front leg as the truck skidded to a stop. Mark groaned, rubbing his head, but Luna couldn't move. She whimpered, her breathing heavy, trying to process what had happened. Mark stumbled out of the vehicle, his phone already in his hand, calling for help. But not for her. He didn't even look at her. Minutes passed. A tow truck arrived. People gathered. Still, no one noticed the injured dog lying in the shadows. Mark paced back and forth, shaking his head. His truck was wrecked, probably beyond repair. Insurance would be a nightmare. He sighed, running a hand down his face, and then finally, his eyes landed on Luna. She lifted her head slightly, her tail weakly thumping against the seat, expecting the comfort she desperately needed. Instead, Mark muttered under his breath, "Damn it, Luna. Not now." He hesitated. Then, with one final glance at the wrecked truck and his injured dog, he made a decision. Mark whistled sharply, signaling for her to follow. Instinctively, Luna tried to obey, but the moment she moved, searing pain shot through her leg. She yelped, collapsing onto the gravel. Mark cursed under his breath. He bent down, not to comfort her, but to grip her collar. He dragged her toward the side of the road, his grip rough and impatient. Luna whined in confusion. Then he let go. "Stay here," he said, his voice flat. "I'll find help." Luna didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone, the distance. She watched as Mark turned his back on her, walking toward the tow truck without another glance. The last thing she saw was his truck being pulled away. And then he was gone. Luna waited. She waited for hours. The night came, and with it, the cold. She curled up in a tight ball, her injured leg throbbing, her stomach growling. But Mark never came back. The next morning, she tried to move, but her leg refused to carry her weight. She dragged herself toward the edge of the road, hoping someone would see her. Car after car sped past. No one stopped. By the third day, the hunger had become unbearable. By the fourth, her body felt weak, her breath shallow. By the fifth, she had stopped hoping. And then, Sophia found her. As Luna lay on the cold pavement outside the gas station, her body aching from exhaustion, she thought about Mark. Had she done something wrong? Why didn't he come back? She didn't understand. What she did understand was pain, hunger, fear. The past 5 days had stripped away every ounce of comfort she had ever known. She had learned to navigate a world where people barely noticed her, where the only kindness came in the form of occasional scraps of food thrown from passing strangers, if she was lucky. The worst part wasn't the hunger. It was the loneliness. For 5 days, she had searched for something, anything to remind her that she wasn't truly alone. But the streets were not kind to the injured, nor were they patient with the weak. The moment Sophia had approached her, something inside Luna had hesitated. Would this human hurt her too? Would she turn her back on her like Mark had? But Sophia's voice had been soft, gentle, different. And now, for the first time in days, Luna felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Luna had no idea that she was fighting against more than just starvation and pain. Inside her, a silent battle was raging. One that would soon change everything. Luna lay still as the car bumped along the uneven road, her body too weak to move. She could hear voices, Sophia speaking softly, another voice responding. But the words blurred together in her exhausted mind. The scent of antiseptic filled the air, mingling with something else, fear. Her own fear. She didn't know where they were taking her. Every experience she'd had in the past 5 days told her not to trust. Humans had ignored her, abandoned her, walked past her pain as if she were invisible. But this one had stopped. This one had reached out a hand instead of turning away. And now, as she lay in the backseat of the car, drifting between consciousness and darkness, she clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. The car came to a stop. Hands reached for her, lifting her gently, careful not to hurt her any more than she already was. A low whimper escaped her throat as pain flared through her injured leg. "It's okay, sweetheart," the voice murmured. "We've got you." The words meant nothing to her, but the tone, the warmth, they were enough. She didn't fight. Bright lights. The smell of medicine. A cool surface beneath her. She was somewhere new. A place filled with strange noises, beeping sounds, and the faint cries of other animals. She tried to lift her head, but exhaustion pulled her back down. She gave in, letting the darkness take her. When she woke again, the pain was sharper. She let out a small cry, and instantly, hands were there, stroking her head, whispering reassurances. The human Sophia was still there. So was another figure, a man in a white coat. He spoke in a calm voice, checking her injuries, pressing gently against her swollen belly. A shadow of confusion crossed his face. Then he spoke words that made Sophia's breath hitch. She's pregnant. A silence stretched between them. Sophia looked down at Luna, eyes wide, hand frozen mid-stroke. Are you sure? The doctor nodded. An ultrasound will confirm it, but based on the swelling, I'd say she was already far along when the accident happened. We need to move fast. Luna didn't understand their words, but she could feel the tension in the room. The energy shifted, urgency replacing hesitation. A machine whirred to life beside her, and soon, a cold gel was spread across her belly. The doctor moved a device across her skin, his eyes narrowing at the screen. Then, he let out a slow breath, shaking his head. Sophia's voice was barely above a whisper. Are they okay? The doctor hesitated. That moment of hesitation was enough. Luna's body had endured too much. The hunger, the pain, the exhaustion, her unborn pups had been fighting alongside her, but the accident had done more damage than anyone had realized. The screen showed what the doctor had feared. No movement. No heartbeat. Sophia covered her mouth, her heart breaking for the creature in front of her. Luna had lost everything, her home, her trust, and now, the little lives she had been carrying. And she didn't even know it yet. The doctor exhaled. We need to operate. If we don't, she won't make it either. Sophia swallowed hard. Do whatever it takes. Luna let out a soft sigh, shifting slightly as the humans continued speaking. She didn't know what was happening. All she knew was that the warmth of the hand on her head, the steady voice whispering gentle words, those things made her feel safe. Even if just for a moment. She closed her eyes again. The fight wasn't over yet. Luna's body felt weightless, drifting between pain and numbness as the world around her faded in and out. Voices echoed in the distance. Sharp lights flickered behind her closed eyes, but she was too weak to react. A strange coldness crept through her veins, something unfamiliar yet oddly soothing. Her breathing slowed. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Dr. Mason worked quickly, his movements precise as he made the first incision. Every second counted. The damage from the accident had done more than break her body. It had stolen something from her. Something she would never understand, but had already lost. His jaw tightened as he carefully removed what remained of the unborn pups. A tragedy. A life that never had a chance to begin. He pushed the thought away, focusing on the task at hand. Luna still had a chance. He wasn't going to let her go without a fight. Sophia stood outside the operating room, hands clenched together, her stomach twisting with anxiety. She had only known Luna for a few hours, yet the thought of losing her felt unbearable. How could someone abandon her like this? How could a creature so full of life and trust be discarded as if she were nothing? Anger burned beneath her skin, but she swallowed it down. Now wasn't the time for anger. Now was the time for hope. Hours passed. The surgery was complicated, delicate. Luna had lost too much blood. Dr. Mason's team worked tirelessly, doing everything they could to stabilize her. At one point, the monitors beeped erratically, sending a wave of panic through the room. But she fought. She held on. And then silence. Not the terrifying silence of loss, but the steady rhythmic beeping of a heartbeat that refused to give up. When Luna finally opened her eyes again, the pain was duller, but still there. The weight in her belly was gone, though she didn't know why. Something was missing. Something important. But she was too tired to understand. A soft voice reached her ears, and she turned her head slightly, finding the familiar face of the human who had saved her. Sophia smiled, relief washing over her. You made it, she whispered, her fingers gently brushing against Luna's fur. You're safe now. Luna didn't know what those words meant, but she felt them. She felt them in the warmth of the touch, in the softness of the voice, in the way this human looked at her like she mattered. For the first time in days, she believed it. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone anymore. Luna drifted between consciousness and the darkness that kept pulling her under. Voices echoed around her, distant but urgent. Machines beeped steadily, a rhythmic sound that matched the faint thudding in her chest. She was too tired to move, too weak to fight, but somewhere deep inside, a flicker of survival still burned. The air smelled sterile, sharp, unfamiliar. Hands moved around her, gentle yet firm, lifting her onto another surface. Then came the prick of a needle, a cold sensation spreading through her veins. The darkness deepened. Time passed. Minutes, hours she didn't know. The world around her faded, lost in a haze of pain and exhaustion. And then, suddenly, a strange sensation pulled her back. A dull ache throbbed in her belly. She tried to shift, but her limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. A voice Sophia's was there, murmuring softly, her warmth grounding Luna against the fear clawing at the edges of her mind. "She made it," another voice said, filled with relief. "The surgery was successful. We had to remove the pups. But she's stable now." Stable. The word meant nothing to Luna, but the tone did. She had survived. The battle had taken its toll. Her body, once strong, now felt foreign, empty. She wasn't sure what had been taken from her, only that something was missing. She let out a low whimper, confused, lost. Sophia's fingers ran through her fur, slow and soothing. "You're safe now, girl. You're not alone." The days blurred together. She slept more than she was awake, each time drifting in and out of a fog she couldn't shake. The humans cared for her, changed her bandages, whispered kind words she didn't understand but somehow trusted. The pain lessened, but the emptiness inside her remained. She would wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, breathing hard, searching for something, someone that wasn't there. Sophia never left her side. Whenever Luna's eyes opened, she was there, always watching, always waiting. Food was placed in front of her, fresh water within reach, but for days, Luna barely touched either. Hunger had defined her for so long, yet now, even with food so close, she couldn't bring herself to eat. Something inside her had broken, and she didn't know how to fix it. Then, one evening, something changed. A soft whining sound echoed from across the room. Luna's ears twitched. Slowly, she turned her head toward the sound. A small cage sat near the far wall, and inside, a tiny trembling puppy huddled in the corner, its dark eyes wide with fear. Sophia smiled gently. "We brought in another rescue today. She's just a baby, kind of like yours would have been." Her voice wavered slightly, but she didn't look away. "Maybe you can help her." Luna's gaze remained fixed on the small creature. A flicker of something, instinct, longing, recognition stirred inside her. She didn't move, but for the first time in days, her tail gave a faint twitch. Sophia saw it and let out a soft breath. Hope. It was still there. Maybe, just maybe, Luna wasn't as lost as she thought. Luna's recovery was slow but steady. Each day, her strength returned little by little. The stitches along her belly had begun to heal, and though her injured leg remained stiff, she was learning to walk again. The humans helped her, Sophia most of all. Every morning, they went outside together, the fresh air filling Luna's lungs as she took careful steps on the soft grass. It wasn't easy. Pain still flared through her limbs, but she pushed forward, because something inside her refused to give up. The other dog, the tiny, frightened pup, had begun to trust her. At first, she had stayed curled in her corner, too afraid to approach. But Luna had been patient. She had shared her food, allowed the pup to sleep close to her, and eventually, the little one had responded. Bit by bit, the pup had started to follow Luna's lead, stepping closer, nuzzling against her fur at night. A bond had formed between them, one that Luna didn't fully understand, but one that gave her purpose. Sophia noticed. "You're amazing, girl. she murmured one evening, scratching behind Luna's ears. "After everything you've been through, you still have love to give." Luna closed her eyes, leaning into the touch. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt safe. But the past wasn't done with her yet. One afternoon, as Luna lay resting in her bed, the door to the clinic swung open. A pair of uniformed officers stepped inside, their expressions serious. Sophia looked up from behind the counter, her smile faltering. "Can I help you?" One of the officers, a tall man with sharp eyes, nodded. "We're investigating a report of animal abandonment. We believe the dog in your care was left at a crash site 5 days before she was found. We have security footage from a nearby gas station showing the owner driving away without her." Sophia's breath caught. She glanced at Luna, who had lifted her head, ears twitching. You found him?" The officer nodded. "The vehicle was registered to a Mark Reynolds. We visited his residence this morning. He denied ownership at first, but when we showed him the footage, he changed his story." Sophia clenched her fists. "Let me guess, he had an excuse? He claimed he rescued the dog from the streets and was planning to take her to a vet. But after the crash, he panicked and left her behind. He said he assumed she would figure it out on her own." Sophia's jaw tightened. Figure it out? She was pregnant, injured, and starving. The officer's expression darkened. "We know. His story doesn't hold up, and considering the condition the dog was found in, we're moving forward with charges for neglect and abandonment." Sophia exhaled sharply. "Good. He doesn't deserve her." The officer nodded. "We just wanted to confirm that she's stable. If this goes to trial, your testimony and any medical records will be crucial." Sophia placed a protective hand on Luna's head. "She's more than stable. She's healing. And she's never going back to him." The officer gave a small smile. "I didn't think she would." Luna didn't understand the words, but she understood Sophia's touch, the quiet reassurance in her presence. Something had changed. The past was catching up, but this time she wasn't alone. Days passed, but something was different. The humans moved with a sense of finality, their voices carrying a weight that Luna didn't fully understand. Sophia spent more time with her, her touches softer, her words filled with something deeper, something that felt like promise. Luna didn't know why, but she felt it too. The tension that had once clung to the air had begun to fade, replaced by something lighter, something hopeful. One morning, Sophia entered the clinic holding a stack of papers. She knelt beside Luna, running a gentle hand over her fur. "Guess what, girl?" she murmured, her voice trembling with quiet excitement. "You're officially free. That man, he's not coming back. Ever." Luna tilted her head, sensing the shift in Sophia's emotions. There was no fear in her voice. No hesitation. Only warmth. Sophia smiled, lifting a sheet of paper in front of her. "And you know what else? You've got a new family waiting for you." Family. The word meant nothing to Luna, but the way Sophia said it made her ears perk up. She didn't understand what was happening, but she could feel the change in the air, the way the humans moved around her with a sense of purpose. Something was coming. Something new. That afternoon, a car pulled up outside the clinic. Two humans stepped out, a man and a woman, their faces filled with quiet anticipation. Sophia greeted them warmly, speaking in that soft, happy tone that Luna had grown to trust. Then they turned to her. The woman knelt first, her eyes kind, her hand steady as she reached out. "Hey, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice filled with something Luna couldn't quite place. Not pity, not sadness, just love. Real, unconditional love. The man crouched beside her, his smile gentle. "She's beautiful." Sophia nodded. "She's been through a lot, but she's strong." The woman extended her hand, giving Luna the choice. For a moment, Luna hesitated. She had learned to be cautious, to expect nothing from humans but indifference. But something about these two was different. She leaned forward, sniffing the woman's fingers, then slowly placed her head in her palm. The woman exhaled, her smile widening. "Welcome home, Luna." And for the first time in a long time, Luna felt the weight of her past lifting, felt the warmth of a future she never thought she'd have. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She was ready.